Carrie Lam emerges as winner of the election for the chief executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. How will the first female holder of the post bring unity to the region? Many saw politics emerging in sport during last week's World Cup qualifier as China beat the Republic of Korea for the first time in decades. Did the political tension between the two countries inspire the Chinese players to greatness? And we look at a legal case that gripped the nation's netizens. Should the judiciary be expected to respond to public opinion? Welcome to The Point. I'm Lu Xin. On Sunday, Carrie Lam won the election of the fifth-term chief executive of China's Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. She won 777 of the almost 1,200 valid votes of the election committee, double the number won by runner-up John Tsang Chung-hua and almost 40 times the votes won by the third candidate, Wu Kuo-ing. Once appointed by the central government in Beijing, she will be Hong Kong's first female leader and begin her five-year term on July the 1st this year. In her speech to the press, Lam pledges to heal Hong Kong's divide and ease the frustration in society over political issues. This year marks the 20th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China. What does Carrie Lam's election mean for the region, and how could she mend the divide between the people from different political spectrums? I'm joined live from Hong Kong with Professor Gu Ming-kang from the School of Law, City University of Hong Kong, and Andrew Fung Ho Kwun, CEO of Hong Kong Policy Research Institution. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. First, let me go to Professor Gu Ming-kang. Now, incumbent Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying warned last Saturday that Hong Kong would lose its high degree of autonomy if his successor lacked Beijing's full trust. How should we understand this statement? What advantages does Carrie Lam have for the future of Hong Kong, being the candidate that's seen as Beijing's favorite?
I think this issue is really, you need to think about the initial consideration of one country, two systems. Under the one country, two system policy, one country is the priority, and under one country there could exist two systems. So the great autonomy of Hong Kong largely rely on the one country, rely on the trust from the central government. So I think the existing CE, Liang, Mr. Liang, his statement is quite right. He's talking about the importance of the one country, two system, and he wish the newly elected chief executive, Carrie Lam, can continue to uphold this important policy so that Hong Kong can keep prosperous.
Andrew Fung, now the fifth-term chief executive of Hong Kong SAR has been elected. What is your view on the whole election process this time? Compared with the last election 5 years ago, what was the difference in terms of the competition between candidates from different camps? And where do you see the future trend in this regard?
I think this one is more smooth than the last one. Okay.
Mr. Fung, please go ahead.
Yes. About Andrew Fung. I'm Andrew Fung.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, sorry. Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
I think the process is more smooth than the last one, because in the last one between Henry Tang and C.Y. Leung is very intense, and with some scandal and so on. And actually, until the 1 or 2 weeks, we don't know what the results are. But for this year, it's quite smooth. And actually, before the election day, people will estimate that Carrie Lam will win the day. So I think for this one, it's more smooth. And also, all three candidates are from the establishment. Even the pan-Democrat camp is supporting one of the pro-establishment candidates, because John Tsang is a high official, was a high official. So therefore, actually, we also see the unity among all the members, most of the members of the establishment camp. They are almost more or less united to support Carrie Lam, with only about 40 or 50 votes from the establishment camp supporting John Tsang. So I think the result is quite smooth. Of course, the popularity rating, Carrie Lam is lagging behind John Tsang. But I think this comparison is only relatively speaking, because both officials during the last 4 years or even more rated among the top list of the most popular official among the people of Hong Kong. So only in this campaign that the public relations work of the campaign of John Tsang is conducted in a better way and more effective way.
Now,
and so therefore,
yeah.
the widening of the gap is only relative.
Yeah, it is expected that Carrie Lam will be faced with a daunting task of reuniting the society of Hong Kong. Let's listen to what she said on this regard.
We have a lot of housing problems, we have a lot of education problems, we have a lot of health problems. So my first priority is let's tackle the easier things to try to demonstrate that we could unify people of different stances and opinions. And then we can move forward. And this is exactly what I describe as the favorable environment and conditions conducive to restarting the process of political reform.
Well, one of the difficulties in her job will be how to balance the leadership of the central government in Beijing and the Hong Kong people governing Hong Kong. Professor Gu, how do you think Carrie Lam could balance these two things in the future? Under the basic law of Hong Kong, how could she provide stability for Hong Kong and steer it into the future?
I think this is a very critical issue. You know, as a chief executive of Hong Kong, he or she must serve as a bridge between the central government and Hong Kong. I think Carrie Lam, as a newly elected CE, she must firstly get full support from the central government. At the same time, she also needs to get support from Hong Kong. I think the most important thing is to listen to diversified view from general public and to select a very strong team to work with her. I think she must face a challenge to solve the relationship between the government and the Legislative Council. Certainly there's a various challenge ahead. I think she must work very hard to solicit the wider support from the general public in order to keep the stability of Hong Kong.
Andrew Foon, Carrie Lam won the support from the majority of members of the election committee, but as you said, the candidate of John Tsang enjoyed higher public support according to a survey by the Hong Kong University. Why was so, and what will it mean for Carrie Lam in her future job?
So as I said, the comparison is only relative during the campaign. Formally, both candidates won high popularity rating among the people of Hong Kong. It's only a comparison during the campaign. So I think, of course, you're right. After she won the election, in the next 3 months, and then after she became the next chief executive on July the 1st, for the next 3 months, then I mean for the next half a year, she needs to do very hard to increase her popularity. She seems to find a way by addressing simpler issues, livelihood issue, education issue, and so on. She will try to tackle the smaller issue first, and then want support from both camps. I think she may have a fair chance of getting what she wanted in this smaller issue. Yes. Before she tackled the more difficult issue. I think she is correct.
My last question to Professor Gu. Outside the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Centre, protesters were urging for genuine, so-called genuine universal suffrage. A voice from the pro-democrats also argued that Carrie Lam didn't win the hearts of the Hong Kong people. Does her win affect the political reforms surrounding the prospect of universal suffrage in Hong Kong?
I think this is a very important question also. In fact, I must point out there's no genuine universal suffrage in the world. We are only talking about the universal suffrage. Yes, the political reform was started, and actually it was disturbed by the pan-democratic camp. And now they are again to say the genuine universal suffrage was required. Yes, we can hear their voice, but we also need to think about how to put forward the further political reform in Hong Kong, so the universal suffrage could be seriously implemented. But it was pity that because the original political reform was failed, it was because of the disturbance from the Pan-Democratic Party, and so the general public cannot vote their chief executive directly. We hope that through the further political reform, we can hear their voice, but we must uphold the general principle, which is the basic law, the one country system, and the National People's Congress decision on the August 31st. Under the general principle, we can further talk about the political reform, so that eventually we can achieve universal suffrage.
Thank you very much, Professor Gu Mingkang from the City University of Hong Kong and Mr. Andrew Fong Ho Chun from Hong Kong Policy Research Institution. Now, Hong Kong separatists and many in the international press have been quick to disparage Carrie Lam's victory under Hong Kong's one country, two systems electoral system, when Western interests asserting their right to control the opium trade in China took Hong Kong by force. Time does not make a crime less serious or give those who inherited the fruits of the crime the right to judge when their own systems of government reflect even stranger electoral vagaries. For some Western media to criticize Hong Kong for not being a total democracy is indeed a ridiculous thing. You're watching The Point. I'll be back right after this. Now, China beat favourites the Republic of Korea 1-0 in a World Cup qualifier last week in the city of Changsha in central China. This was the first time the Chinese national team defeated the ROK in decades, making the victory big news in China. The game carried extra importance as it was played in the midst of tensions between the two countries, which reached new high after the deployment of the THAAD missile system in the ROK earlier this month. Now, the result of the match against this background spurred fierce public discussion. For more insight onto this, we are joined in the studio by Mr. Yan Cheng, a sports commentator who was in the stadium last night. So I understood that there was a lot of security presence in the stadium, that supposedly over 10,000 police officers in this. Why such heavy security presence, and how was the atmosphere in the stadium?
Because we were kind of scared. We might be scared that some rise might happen if China lost. But even with the THAAD missile system, they still couldn't defend the home team. And actually, Changsha is my hometown.
Okay.
And I have some middle school classmates who were in the police force who were exactly there for security reasons. But they told me afterwards it went very well, very peacefully. Maybe it was because China scored early. We scored in the first half, and that settled the mood. It was really, really good.
Did you think we were lucky that we scored this only goal in the first half and that we maintained the advantage till the very end?
Maybe that helped, but I think we might be too careful about the tension or the mood of the Chinese football supporters. Imagine that a majority, maybe 99% of the supporters there in the stadium, they would behave themselves afterwards because there were no alcoholic drink. People were not really that high. Whether it would be a victory or defeat, I would imagine that we might be too careful.
Good that we didn't have to test that. But let's imagine what kind of pressure the players were under. I mean, there are many different factors, right? They had to take into consideration that they haven't won over the ROK team for decades. They had a new coach, and then on top of everything else, we have the kind of political tension, or the so-called expectation by the general public. How do you look at the pressure they were on?
In my observation, and especially in my dialogues and interviews with some of the key players, some staff of the coach and team, I would say that the pressure for Team China, all from the competitive, from sports background, it didn't really get so involved with the political issues, because China and Korea, we play against each other so many times for the past 40 years, and China only defeated them in this kind of A-level international competition once, and that once was not in World Cup qualifier, this kind of the highest standards of competitions. So that's kind of, I think the Korean players, they were under even greater pressure. This was a away match for them, and they didn't lose to China for, say, more than 30 years.
Sure.
The pressure was building on through all these 30 years. They couldn't lose.
Yeah. Another very interesting thing to watch was how did the new coach of the Chinese team fare in the very short time that he took over the Chinese team? Let's first take a listen to this SOT of what Mr. Lippi said.
This past week has been really difficult for us. We have 3 or 4 players with muscle problems and 3 to 4 players who caught the flu in Changsha. I didn't have the best players for tonight's match, and we didn't play our best football either. Despite the goal, we were too conservative and gave them too much room in the first half. We played much better in the second half and created 3 to 4 clear opportunities.
Well, if Mr. Lippi didn't really feel the kind of political pressure on his shoulder because of the THAAD issue, he definitely feels the pressure that the whole country puts on him as the savior of the Chinese team. How do you think, what kind of influence do you think he brought to the team so far?
I think he changed the mentality of Team China totally. And I do hope that CFA would renew his contract. He has a kind of 3-year contract. We hope that it will be 30 years. If he stick to that, he's almost 68 years old. He won the World Cup with Italy, his homeland, 11 years ago. And he is a very calculating but also brave manager. The starting lineup, starting 11, was the most attacking lineup that I've witnessed for more than 20 years. Of those 10 outfield players, exclude the goalkeeper, 5 of them were really attacking-based players. I would say that no former Team China head coach had used this kind of starting lineups, and he encouraged himself. He got them believe that they could give the Koreans a hard match.
Very interesting. Well, I certainly hope that politics didn't have to play such a big role in this very interesting football match. And you're watching The Point here on CGTN. We'll be right back after this short break. Another issue also under public scrutiny over the weekend. The Supreme People's Procuratorate announced Sunday it will investigate a case which caught public attention. According to media reports, Yu Huan stabbed 4 men, 1 fatally, that had beaten and extorted money from him and his mother over an illegal loan. One article suggested that the shocking part was while the local police initially intervened, they left without arresting the gangsters or trying to protect the victims, leaving 11 thugs surrounding a young man and his mother. Yu was sentenced to life imprisonment for crime of intentional injury by the local court. This set the Chinese internet on fire, with overwhelming public opinion thinking it was way too heavy, the sentence was way too heavy, and that the police officer who appeared briefly without doing anything to help should be held responsible for negligence. Now, this case stirred up overwhelming fury as well as huge amounts of discussion on the internet. On China's Twitter-like social network Weibo, one of the relevant topics attracted 570 million views, and and on WeChat and other Chinese social media, this case has been discussed over 20 million times. Well, what makes our society burn with rage about this case? Increasing numbers of Chinese netizens are publishing their judgments, often irrational ones, online. Is this trend progress? To get more insights, I'm joined in the studio by Dr. Ying Bo, an associate professor from a College for Criminal Law Science of Beijing Normal University. Professor Ying, thank you for joining us. Could you explain a bit more about the multiple controversies that we are seeing in this case?
I think in this case, it's mostly regarding the specific circumstance applied in this case, especially the what we call self-defense and excessive defense, and also about the sentence of this Yu Huan, whether he should be applied life imprisonment or the 10 years fixed term imprisonment, or should be acquittal,
What makes the society burn with rage on this issue? Where was that click that made everyone want to join the conversation?
Because it's regarding the fundamental value in Chinese society, especially regarding the relationship between the mother and the son, because the mother was humiliated and insulted, even sexually harassment upon this mother. So the son becomes very angry, and he committed a crime, and especially he grabbed the fruit light and grabbed the fruit light and scrapped one of the donor, and one of them died in the hospital. So actually regarding the fundamental value in Chinese society.
What is the role of Supreme People's Procuratorate? As I said, this court has decided to reinvestigate this case. What could happen next in terms of procedure?
I think in the next proceedings, the Supreme Court may intervene, and Supreme People's Procuratorate may intervene in this case, launch the what they call legal supervision process upon the case. So the SPP investigated the case directly and decide whether it could correct the mistakes made by the lower level court.
So there is some chance that this verdict can be corrected to respond, to reflect the amount of public opinion that we have seen so far. Is it normal in Chinese society for public opinion to have so much influence, have the potential of having so much influence on the judiciary decision? Have there been similar cases in the past?
Yes, I think there are plenty of cases about the intervention by the general public, media, and especially the self-media. And in my memory, as far as I know, there's a very important case occurred recently. The Tianjin aunt, who is actually the perpetrator of the possessing the firearms, and who was...
She was accused of possessing firearms.
Yes.
But actually they were toys.
Yes.
So what happened to her?
Initially, she was sentenced to 3 years in imprisonment. But then, after the repeated exposure to the general public, especially by the media, and she was finally sentenced to 3 years suspension. It means that she has a substantive penalty.
Yeah, but what is the potential danger here as well for the public opinion to have such power to sway the judicial system? People are saying law is law, let the law decide how justice can be done.
I think it involves two different aspects. One is the legal realism, the other is the positivism. I think it might be a little bit complicated for the general public. But in this case, especially the Yu Huan case, you can look at before the evidence has entirely revealed and the general public has expressed their opinion upon this case, actually has already influenced the case. So I think there's one very interesting sentence called let the bullet fly for a while. I think before the entire case was investigated and the evidence was revealed, and nobody can really argue for a very particular perspective. about this case.
Yeah. Finally, Chinese society is going through very rapid changes and judicial reforms. Chinese President Xi Jinping talks about the importance of guaranteeing justice and equity for every citizen so that they have a sense of security, a sense of justice. Is that reflected in what we are seeing here by incorporating public opinion into judicial decisions?
Yes, you're right. Because our justice's purpose is to ensure that every individual to feel the justice in the individual case. I think in this case it's actually regarding the grassroots, will reflect in the fundamental value of the Chinese society. So that's why this case attracted a huge attention from the general public. And I think eventually the netizens may change the final result of the case, I think.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ying Bo from Beijing Normal University.
Thank you. Thanks.
And here's a short break, and my last point is coming up right after this. Well, some people say law is law and morals are morals, but the two should not be opposing each other. The case will ultimately be judged according to the law, but the huge online uproar has definitely raised the issue of how to balance the two when they come into conflict. It will be a difficult decision, but it is necessary for the authority to take a long, hard look before a new verdict is given so that the judicial system could win the hearts and the trust of the people. The incident also reminds us how vital it is to fully engage the public about such important decisions in the digital age. That's it for this edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle The Point with LX. Download the CGTN Live application to watch our show on your mobile devices. For previous shows, go to the CGTN channel of YouTube. Click on the playlist and look for The Point with Liu Xin. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time.